Hello, my name is Madison Thompson, and I'm 28 years old. Today I'm going to tell you about the moment my family's Thanksgiving dinner table exploded. It all started when my father looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're the most useless child in this family." My brothers were the hero and the genius. I was the forgotten one. But what no one at that table knew was that for years, I had been quietly paying off their debts, paying their hospital bills, and even saving our family home. That night, I finally blew up and let it all out. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from, and thanks for being here. Growing up in suburban Denver, I always felt like I was living in the shadow of my two brothers. My older brother Jake was the golden boy, literally. He became a firefighter, and my dad Bob treated him like he personally invented heroism. Every conversation at dinner was about Jake's latest rescue or some commendation he received. My dad would beam with pride, chest puffed out, telling anyone who'd listen about my son the hero. Then there was my younger brother Tyler, the family genius. This kid was solving calculus problems in middle school while I was still trying to figure out long division. By the time he hit high school, he was already talking about medical school. My mom Patricia would practically swoon whenever Tyler brought home another perfect test score or got accepted into some advanced program. And then there was me, the middle child, the forgotten one. While Jake was out saving cats from trees and Tyler was busy being a child prodigy, I was the weird kid who spent hours on the family computer, learning about this new thing called social media. Back in 2010, when everyone thought Facebook was just for college kids, I was already figuring out how businesses could use it to reach customers. My parents thought I was wasting time, playing on the computer. I remember one particular dinner when I was 16. I'd just won first place in a statewide web design competition, beating out kids from schools 3 times the size of mine. I was so excited to tell everyone. The minute I opened my mouth, my dad cut me off. "That's nice, Madison, but let Jake tell us about his interview with the fire department." My award certificate sat on my dresser for weeks before I finally put it in a drawer. It never made it to the refrigerator like Tyler's honor roll certificates, or the living room mantle like Jake's trophies. Family photos told the whole story. In our big family portrait hanging in the living room, Jake and Tyler flanked my parents. All smiles and perfect positioning. I was slightly off to the side, like an afterthought someone remembered to include at the last minute. My dad Bob was a construction engineer. Practical, no nonsense, and absolutely convinced that anything involving creativity or technology was a waste of time. He'd grown up in an era where men worked with their hands, and success meant a steady paycheck and a pension. My mom Pat was a part-time accountant who'd given up her career ambitions to raise us kids. She lived vicariously through our achievements, but somehow mine never counted. When I told them I wanted to study marketing in college, the reaction was predictable. "Marketing?" Dad snorted. "What kind of real job will you get with that? You'll be making coffee for actual business people." "Honey," Mom added in that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate, "maybe you should consider something more stable, like accounting. I could help you with that." But I was stubborn. Maybe it was the middle child syndrome, or maybe I just knew I had something to prove. I got into the University of Colorado Boulder on partial scholarship and dove headfirst into digital marketing just as the industry was exploding. While my classmates were partying, I was building websites for local businesses. While they were sleeping in, I was learning about SEO and social media algorithms. I wasn't the smartest kid in class, but I was definitely the hungriest. My first real breakthrough came during my junior year. I landed an internship with a tiny startup in Boulder that made craft beer. Their social media presence was basically non-existent. They had like 47 followers on Instagram and posted maybe once a month. I convinced them to let me take over their digital marketing as part of my internship project. 6 months later, their Instagram had exploded to over 50,000 followers, and their sales had increased by 300%. Local news picked up the story, and suddenly everyone wanted to know who was behind their viral marketing campaigns. It was me, 20-year-old Madison Thompson, the useless middle child. When I called home to share the news, my mom's response was, "That's wonderful, dear. Did you hear Tyler got accepted into the pre-med program?" After graduation, I made a decision that shocked everyone, including myself. Instead of taking a safe corporate job, I decided to start my own agency. I used my savings from internships and part-time jobs to rent a tiny studio apartment in Capitol Hill and called it both my home and my office. Digital boost marketing was born in my bedroom, with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and an unhealthy amount of energy drinks. The first year was brutal. I was working 18-hour days, living on ramen noodles and pure determination. My first clients were small local businesses, a coffee shop here, a boutique there, a yoga studio that paid me partially in free classes. I reinvested every penny back into the business. My family's reaction to my entrepreneurial venture was about what you'd expect. "When are you going to get a real job?" became my dad's favorite question. He'd ask it every single time I saw him, like a broken record. "Marketing isn't real work," he'd tell his buddies at barbecues. "She just posts pictures online and calls it a business." My mom was slightly more supportive but still worried. "I just think you should have something to fall back on, Madison. What if this internet thing doesn't work out?" The internet thing. Like it was a fad that would disappear any day. But I kept grinding. By year 2, I'd landed my first major client, a Denver-based outdoor gear company that wanted to expand their online presence. The campaign I created for them was a massive success. Their online sales doubled in 6 months, and they ended up hiring me as their primary marketing consultant. That success led to others. Word spread in Denver's business community about this young woman who could make brands explode on social media. I had to hire my first employee, then my second, then my third. By my 25th birthday, Digital Boost Marketing had moved into a sleek office in Denver's trendy Rhino district. We had 12 full-time employees, and our client roster included some of Colorado's most recognizable brands. Our annual revenue hit $800,000. And I was featured in Denver Business Journal's 40 Under 40 list. But when I tried to share this news with my family, the response was lukewarm at best. "That's great, honey," my mom said. "Jake just got promoted to lieutenant. Can you believe it? Our son, a lieutenant." My dad's response was even more deflating. "I hope you're putting money away for retirement. Small businesses fail all the time." It was like they were determined to minimize everything I accomplished. When Tyler got into medical school, the whole family threw him a party. When I landed a major contract with a national outdoor retailer worth $200,000, my mom mentioned it to my dad while he was watching TV, and he just grunted. The worst part was family gatherings. Every Christmas, every Easter, every birthday party was the same script. Jake would regale everyone with stories of his latest rescues. Tyler would update everyone on his medical studies. And I would sit there, listening to them talk around me like I wasn't even there. "Madison, help your mother in the kitchen," became my dad's standard greeting. Not "how's business" or "tell us what you've been up to." Just an immediate dismissal to the kitchen where I belonged. But here's the thing nobody knew, and I mean nobody. While my family was treating me like the unsuccessful black sheep, I was quietly keeping them financially afloat. It started small. About 3 years ago, Jake came to me looking embarrassed and desperate. He'd gotten into some trouble with fantasy football betting. Apparently, being good at saving people from fires doesn't automatically make you good at picking winning teams. He owed some guys $8,000 and was scared of what would happen if he couldn't pay. "I can't tell Mom and Dad," he pleaded. "You know how Dad feels about gambling. It would kill him." So I paid it. $8,000, just like that. Jake promised he'd pay me back once he got his finances sorted out. That was 3 years ago. Then Tyler needed help with medical school. Even with scholarships and student loans, he was short $15,000 for his final year. My parents were stressed about it for weeks, talking in hushed tones about taking out a second mortgage. I quietly transferred the money to Tyler's account and told him to tell our parents that he'd gotten an additional scholarship. The relief on their faces when he delivered the good news was worth it. They never knew their daughter had saved their house. Next came the roof repair. 25 years of Colorado weather had finally caught up with my parents' house, and they needed a new roof. The estimate was $12,000. I overheard my dad on the phone with the insurance company, arguing about coverage. He hung up, frustrated. "Insurance won't cover it," he told my mom. "They're saying it's normal wear and tear." A week later, my dad got a call from the roofing company saying an anonymous benefactor had paid for the entire job. He spent weeks trying to figure out who it could have been, convinced it was some kind of mistake. It was me. Then my mom's car broke down beyond repair. She needed a reliable vehicle to get to work, but money was tight. I arranged for a dealer to give her an incredible trade-in deal that basically meant I paid for most of her new car. When my dad needed back surgery and the insurance copay was $3,500, I took care of it. When Tyler needed money for MCAT prep courses, I covered it. When Jake's wife needed dental work, guess who paid? Over the past 3 years, I'd quietly given my family over $40,000. Not loans, gifts. Because every single time, I told myself this would be the one that made them see me differently. This would be the gesture that finally earned me a place at the table. But it never was. The financial help was always accepted with gratitude, but it was never connected to me in their minds. My dad would brag to his friends about how blessed they were when things worked out. My mom would talk about their good luck when bills got mysteriously paid. Meanwhile, I was still the daughter who played around on computers and needed to get a real job. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, my dad called me with another request. He needed $10,000 for a down payment on a new work truck. His old one had finally died, and he needed reliable transportation for his job sites. For the first time ever, I hesitated. "Madison, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important," he said. "You know I'm good for it." But here's the thing, none of them had ever been good for it. I'd never been repaid a single dollar of the money I'd lent or given them over the years. "Dad, that's a lot of money, and you still haven't paid me back for the last time I helped you." There was a long pause. "What are you talking about?" He honestly didn't remember. Or maybe he'd convinced himself that all those financial miracles were just coincidences. "Never mind," I said. "I'll transfer the money tomorrow." But something was different this time. As I hung up the phone, I felt a burning resentment that I'd never allowed myself to feel before. I was tired of being their secret ATM while being treated like their biggest disappointment. I called my best friend Jess that night and told her everything. She'd been my roommate in college and knew my family dynamics better than anyone. "Madison, you need to stop," she said bluntly. "They're using you." "They're my family, Jess. Family helps each other." "No, family supports each other. There's a difference. When's the last time they asked about your business, your life, your dreams? When's the last time they celebrated one of your achievements?" I couldn't answer because I honestly couldn't remember. "You know what you need to do?" Jess continued. "You need to go to Thanksgiving this year and tell them exactly who you are and what you've done for them. Stop hiding your success to make them comfortable." The idea terrified me. Confrontation wasn't my style. I was the peacekeeper, the problem solver, the one who smiled and nodded and kept everyone happy. But I was also exhausted. The week leading up to Thanksgiving, I made a decision. This year would be different. I wasn't going to shrink myself to fit into their narrow view of who I should be. I was going to show up as my authentic self, successful, accomplished Madison, and demand the respect I deserved. I went shopping and bought an expensive bottle of wine, a $200 Cabernet that I'd been saving for a special occasion. I also ordered gourmet desserts from Denver's most exclusive bakery, spending another $150. If I was going to contribute to this family gathering, I was going to make sure everyone knew it wasn't coming from the unsuccessful daughter. Thanksgiving morning, I got dressed differently than I usually did for family gatherings. Instead of trying to blend in, I wore a sharp blazer and designer jeans, the kind of outfit I wore to important client meetings. I wanted to look successful because I was successful. The drive from my downtown loft to my parents' house in Lakewood took about 30 minutes. The contrast was stark, leaving my modern, upscale neighborhood for the same brown ranch house I'd grown up in. As I pulled into the driveway in my Tesla, I noticed my dad's old pickup truck parked next to Jake's modest sedan and Tyler's hand-me-down Honda. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering my courage. Through the window, I could see my family moving around inside, setting up for our traditional Thanksgiving feast. This was it, the day I finally stopped being invisible. My mom answered the door, wiping her hands on an apron covered in turkey prints. "Oh, Madison, you're here. Perfect timing, I need help in the kitchen." Not, "Hi, honey, how are you?" or "How's business?" Just an immediate assignment to the kitchen. Some things never changed. "I brought wine and dessert," I said, holding up my expensive contributions. "That's nice, dear. Just put them on the counter. The turkey needs basting." I followed her into the kitchen, the same avocado green kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 1970s. My mom was in full hostess mode, orchestrating the dinner preparation like a military operation. "Where are Dad and the boys?" I asked. "Living room, watching football. You know how they are." I could hear their voices carrying from the other room, animated discussions about plays and player stats. The kind of passionate conversations my family never had about my work. As I helped arrange the desserts I'd brought, my mom glanced at them for the first time. "These look fancy. Where did you get them?" "Bittersweet Bakery. They're supposed to be amazing." "Oh," she seemed unimpressed. "Well, I already made pumpkin pie and apple crisp. I hope people have room." Even my contribution to the meal was somehow not quite right. Dinner was set for 4 o'clock, and by 3:30, the house was full. Jake and his wife Amy had arrived with their 2 young kids. Tyler had driven down from Fort Collins where he was finishing medical school. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins filled out the crowd. The dining room table was set with my mom's good china, the same pattern she'd been using for special occasions since I was a kid. The centerpiece was a cornucopia overflowing with fake autumn leaves and mini pumpkins. When it came time to sit down, the seating arrangement was as predictable as it was painful. My dad took his place at the head of the table, my mom at the opposite end. Jake sat to Dad's right, Tyler to his left. I was relegated to the kids' end of the table, squeezed between my 8-year-old nephew and my cousin's girlfriend. The conversation flowed around me like water around a rock. "Jake, tell everyone about that apartment fire you handled last week," my dad prompted. His chest already swelling with pride, Jake launched into a detailed story about rescuing a family of 4 from a burning building. Everyone listened with rapt attention, asking questions and making appropriate sounds of amazement. When he finished, the table erupted in applause. "That's my boy," Dad beamed. "A real hero." Next up was Tyler, who regaled the table with stories from his emergency room rotation. He described helping deliver a baby in the hospital elevator, and everyone was equally impressed. "Dr. Tyler," my aunt gushed. "It has such a nice ring to it." My mom practically glowed. "We're so proud of both our boys." I waited for someone to ask about my life, my business, my recent successes. The Nike contract I'd just landed was the biggest deal of my career, a 6-figure campaign that would put my agency on the map nationally. But no one asked. Instead, the conversation moved on to Tyler's girlfriend, Jake's kids' school performance, and my dad's plans for retirement. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Speaking of careers," I said, trying to wedge myself into the conversation, "I just landed a major contract with Nike. It's a national campaign for their new running shoe line." The table got quiet for a moment. My dad looked annoyed at being interrupted. "That's nice, dear," my mom said absently. "Jake, tell us about your promotion interview." My announcement, the biggest professional achievement of my life, was dismissed in less than 5 seconds, but Jake actually looked interested. "Wait, Nike? That's huge, Maddie. How'd you land that?" Before I could answer, my dad cut in. "Let's not bore everyone with work talk. This is family time." I felt heat rising in my cheeks. "It's not boring, Dad. It's a major accomplishment." "I'm sure it is, sweetheart," he said in that patronizing tone that made my skin crawl. "But nobody wants to hear about your little computer projects right now." Little computer projects. My 6-figure Nike deal was a little computer project. "Dad, it's not a project. It's a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign. I'm running a successful business with 12 employees, and—" "Madison," his voice had an edge now. "We get it. You're very important. Can we please just enjoy dinner?" The entire table was staring at us now. I could feel my aunt's uncomfortable glance, my cousin's awkward silence, Jake's concerned expression. But I couldn't stop. 3 years of suppressed frustration were bubbling to the surface. Why is it that when Jake talks about work, everyone listens? When Tyler shares his medical stories, you're all fascinated? But when I try to share something about my career, it's boring, it's inappropriate, it's bragging? My dad's face was getting red. "Because your brothers have real jobs, Madison. They contribute to society. Jake saves lives. Tyler will save lives. You post pictures on the internet and call it work." The words hit me like a physical blow. Around the table, I could see the discomfort on everyone's faces. My mom looked mortified. Jake was staring at his plate. Tyler looked like he wanted to disappear, but my dad wasn't finished. He stood up slowly, his face now completely flushed with anger. You know what, Madison? I'm tired of pretending. You want to know the truth? Bob, my mom whispered. But he held up his hand. No, Pat. Someone needs to say it. She prances around thinking she's so successful with her little business, acting like she's better than the rest of us. But when has she ever really helped this family? When has she ever contributed anything meaningful? He looked directly at me, his eyes cold. You're the most useless child we have, Madison. At least your brothers contribute something meaningful to this family. Jake saves lives. Tyler will be a doctor. What do? Post on Instagram and call it work? The words hung in the air like poison gas. The entire table was dead silent. I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, the distant sound of football commentary from the TV in the kitchen. Something broke inside me in that moment. Not my spirit, my chains. I stood up slowly, my napkin falling to the floor. When I spoke, my voice was steady and clear. You want to know how I've contributed to this family, Dad? His expression shifted slightly. Something in my tone warned him that he'd pushed too far. Madison, don't, my mom started. No, Mom, he asked, so I'm going to tell him. I looked around the table at my family's confused faces. Jake, remember 3 years ago when you came to me panicking about $8,000 in gambling debts? The money that saved you from some very angry people? That was me. Jake's face went white. His wife Amy turned to stare at him in shock. Tyler, that $15,000 scholarship that helped you finish medical school, that wasn't a scholarship. That was me. Tyler's mouth fell open. Mom, Dad, that roof repair that was mysteriously paid for by an anonymous benefactor, the one you spent weeks trying to figure out, that was me. My dad tried to interrupt, but I kept going. Mom's car down payment that came from that amazing trade-in deal? Me. Dad's back surgery copay? Me. Tyler's MCAT prep courses? Me. The revelations were hitting the table like bombs. Family members were looking at each other in confusion and dawning realization. Over the past 3 years, I have quietly given this family over $40,000. $40,000. And not once, not one single time, has anyone thanked me. Not once has anyone acknowledged what I was doing. Because none of you wanted to admit that your money was coming from the useless daughter who plays on computers. My dad's face had gone from red to pale. He realized I was exposing secrets he didn't even know were secrets. Madison, stop this right now, he demanded, reaching across the table to grab my wrist. Don't touch me. I yanked my arm back, and his momentum carried him further across the table. Wine glasses crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces. You ungrateful, he came around the table toward me, and I stepped back. Ungrateful. I'm ungrateful. My voice was rising now. I've been paying for this family's emergencies while you tell everyone I'm a failure. He grabbed my shoulder and shoved me hard. Shut up, you're embarrassing this family. I stumbled backward, crashing into the sideboard. Picture frames rattled and one fell to the floor, the glass cracking. The room exploded into chaos. Bob, my mom screamed. Jake jumped up from his chair. Dad, what the hell? Tyler was on his feet too. Stop it, both of you. Amy was trying to cover her kid's eyes, while my aunt and uncle looked horrified. But I wasn't done. The shove had unleashed something primal in me. All the years of being dismissed, minimized, and ignored came pouring out. You want embarrassing? I'll give you embarrassing. Your golden boy Jake nearly lost his house because he can't stop betting on football games. Your precious pre-med student Tyler couldn't afford to finish school without his useless sister's money. And you would have lost this house if I hadn't paid for your roof, your surgery, your truck down payment. My dad lunged at me again, but Jake caught his arm. Dad, stop! She's telling the truth. What? Amy stared at her husband. Jake, is she telling the truth about the gambling? Tyler was looking sick. Madison, I thought that scholarship was real. It wasn't, I shouted. None of it was real. It was all me. Your useless daughter has been keeping this family afloat while you treated me like garbage. My mom was crying now. Madison, we didn't know. That's exactly the problem, Mom. You didn't want to know. You wanted to keep pretending that I was the failure while Jake and Tyler were the successes. But guess what? I'm the one with the successful business. I'm the one who owns her home outright. I'm the one who's been taking care of everyone else. My dad finally broke free from Jake's grip, but instead of coming at me again, he stood there, looking defeated. That's what family does, he said weakly. Family helps family. No, Dad. Family supports each other. Family celebrates each other's successes. Family doesn't push each other into furniture for telling the truth. I looked around at their shocked faces. My mom crying, Jake looking ashamed, Tyler staring at the floor, Amy comforting her confused children. This is what a dysfunctional family does. They take and take and take from the person they claim to care about least. I grabbed my coat from the hall closet. Jake tried to stop me. Maddie, wait, please. Let's talk about this. Talk about what, Jake? How you've been lying to your wife about gambling? How Dad just physically assaulted me for telling the truth? How this entire family has been taking my money while treating me like a disappointment? I headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear my mom pleading, Madison, please don't leave like this. We can work this out. I turned back one last time. I've spent 28 years trying to earn your respect, your approval, your love. I'm done. I'm done shrinking myself to make you comfortable. I'm done pretending that this family isn't toxic. And I'm definitely done being your secret ATM. I walked out, slamming the door behind me hard enough that I'm sure the neighbors heard it. The drive back to my loft was surreal. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, adrenaline still coursing through my system. I called Jess on my car's Bluetooth. How did it go? She asked. I did it, Jess. I finally did it. I told them everything. And? My dad shoved me into a piece of furniture. He what? I started crying then, not sad tears, but tears of relief and rage and exhaustion. It's over. I'm done with them. That night, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Text after text, voicemail after voicemail. From Tyler. Madison, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you paid for school. I thought it was a real scholarship. I feel sick about this. From Jake. We need to talk. I owe you way more than money. I owe you an apology and an explanation. From my mom. Please come back. Your father is ashamed of what he did. We can fix this. From my dad. Silence. I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of wine. Sitting in my modern loft, looking out at the Denver skyline, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The next few days were a blur of emotions. I threw myself into work, using my business as a refuge from the family drama. But the calls and texts kept coming. A week after Thanksgiving, Jake showed up at my office. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. Can we talk? He asked. I led him into my conference room, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Denver. He looked around, really seeing my office for the first time. This is incredible, Maddie. I never realized. I mean, I knew you had a business, but this is... He gestured around the space. This is real success. It always was, Jake. You just never bothered to look. He nodded, shame evident on his face. You're right, and you're right about everything else too. The gambling, the money, the way we've treated you. It's not okay. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of a bank transfer. $5,000. It's not nearly enough, but it's a start. Amy and I talked, and we're going to pay you back every penny I owe you. It might take a while, but we're going to do it. Jake, you don't have to. Yes, I do. And not just the money. I owe you an apology that's 3 years overdue. You saved my marriage, my house, probably my life, and I never even said thank you. I'm so sorry, Madison. It was the first genuine apology I'd received from anyone in my family. Tyler came to see me a few days later. Unlike Jake, he wanted to understand. How long have you been supporting all of us? He asked. Financially, 3 years, emotionally, my whole life. He winced. I never saw it. I was so focused on school, on becoming a doctor, on making Mom and Dad proud, that I never noticed you were invisible. I wasn't invisible, Tyler. You all chose not to see me. You're right, and I want to change that. I want to know about your business, your life, your dreams. I want to be a real brother to you. It was a start. My mom visited my loft a few weeks later. She walked around my space in amazement, taking in the modern furniture, the city views, the evidence of my successful life. I had no idea you lived like this, she said softly. You never asked. She sat on my couch and cried. Real tears. Not the manipulative kind she'd used when I was growing up. I failed you, she said. As a mother, I completely failed you. I let your father dismiss you, and I participated in it. I enabled all of it. Mom, no, let me finish. I was so focused on Jake being the hero and Tyler being the genius that I forgot you were special too. You were always special, Madison. You were creative and determined and independent, and instead of celebrating those qualities, I tried to make you fit into a mold that was wrong for you. It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. I don't know if you can forgive me, she continued, but I want to try to do better. I want to know who you really are, not who I thought you should be. As for my dad, he remained stubbornly silent for weeks. No calls, no texts, no acknowledgement of what had happened. Through my mom, I heard that he was processing and working through some things, but he wasn't ready to talk. Fine, I wasn't waiting for him anymore. Christmas was approaching, and my family was walking on eggshells around me. They wanted me to come to Christmas dinner, but nobody knew how to ask after what had happened at Thanksgiving. Finally, my mom called. We want you to come for Christmas, she said hesitantly, but only if you want to, and only if you're comfortable. What about Dad? He wants you to come too. He's been different since Thanksgiving, Madison, quieter. I think he's realized some things about himself that he doesn't like. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to stay away, to protect myself from more disappointment. But another part of me, the part that still loved my family despite everything, wanted to give them a chance to do better. I'll come, I said finally, but I have conditions. Anything. I'm bringing my boyfriend. His name is David, and I've been seeing him for 8 months. You've never met him because family gatherings have always been so toxic that I didn't want to subject him to it. But if I'm coming to Christmas, he's coming too. Of course. And Dad needs to apologize. A real apology, not some half-hearted, I'm sorry you were upset nonsense. He put his hands on me, Mom. He pushed me. That's unacceptable. I know. He knows. He will. And one more thing. If anyone dismisses my business or treats me like the family disappointment, I'm leaving. No drama, no argument. I'll just go. Understood. Christmas morning arrived cold and snowy. David and I drove to Lakewood together, and I was surprised by how nervous I felt. David squeezed my hand. If it gets bad, we leave, he said. No heroics, no trying to fix everything. We just go. Promise? Promise. My mom answered the door with a genuine smile. Madison, and you must be David. We've heard so much about you. That was a lie. They'd heard nothing about him because they'd never asked. But it was a kind lie, and I appreciated the effort. The house looked the same, but the atmosphere was completely different. Jake and Tyler both stood up when we walked into the living room. My dad was sitting in his recliner, and he stood up too, looking uncomfortable but determined. Madison, he said, his voice rough. Can we talk? Privately? I followed him into his home office, the room where he used to help me with math homework when I was little. He closed the door and turned to face me, and I was shocked to see tears in his eyes. I owe you an apology, he said. A real one. Not because your mother told me to, but because I was wrong, completely wrong. I waited. I don't have an excuse for what I did at Thanksgiving. I put my hands on you in anger, and that's unforgivable. I've never done that before, and I will never do it again. He took a shaky breath. But the physical part isn't even the worst of it. The worst part is that everything you said was true. You have been supporting this family, and we've been treating you like you don't matter. I've been treating you like you don't matter. I could see how hard this was for him. I was raised to believe that success looked a certain way, a steady job, a predictable career, traditional milestones. When you chose a different path, I thought you were making a mistake. When your business started succeeding, I didn't understand it, so I dismissed it. Dad, let me finish, please. I need to say this. He wiped his eyes. You're not useless, Madison. You're not unsuccessful. You're not a disappointment. You're incredibly successful. And you're generous, and you're strong enough to stand up for yourself when your own family failed you. I'm proud of you, and I should have said that years ago. The tears I'd been holding back finally came. These were words I'd waited my entire life to hear. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, he continued. I know I have a lot to make up for, but I want to try, if you'll let me. We stood there in his office, both of us crying, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was seeing my real father. Not the stubborn, dismissive man who'd been hiding behind outdated ideas about success and family roles. I'd like that, Dad. He pulled me into a hug, and I let him. It felt awkward at first. We weren't a hugging family, but gradually, it felt real. When we rejoined the others, David was deep in conversation with Tyler about medical technology marketing. Jake was showing him pictures from a recent fire rescue on his phone. For the first time ever, my boyfriend wasn't being ignored or dismissed. Christmas dinner was different too. The seating arrangement had changed. I wasn't relegated to the kids' table. Instead, David and I sat together, included in the main conversations. When my dad asked David about his work as a software engineer, he listened to the answer. When my mom asked me about my business, she wanted details. When Jake talked about his job, he included me in the conversation instead of monopolizing it. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still reminders of old patterns, but it was progress. The biggest surprise came when my dad stood up to make a toast. "I want to say something," he announced, raising his wine glass. "This year has taught me a lot about family, about success, about what really matters." He looked directly at me. "Madison, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you recognition for everything you've accomplished and everything you've done for this family. You built a successful business from nothing. You've been generous and supportive, even when we didn't deserve it. You're an incredible daughter, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see that." He raised his glass higher. "To Madison, the most successful entrepreneur in the Thompson family, and the one who taught us what real strength looks like." Everyone raised their glasses. Even the kids joined in, not understanding the significance, but caught up in the moment. As we toasted, I looked around the table at my family, imperfect, complicated, but finally trying to see me for who I really was. After dinner, as David and I were getting ready to leave, Tyler pulled me aside. "I transferred money to your account," he said quietly, "for the medical school help. It's not the full amount yet, but it's half. Tyler, you don't have to." "Yeah, I do. And not just because of the money, because you deserve to know that your help mattered. You changed my life, Madison, and I never even thanked you." Jake appeared beside us. "Same here. The gambling debt payment will take me longer, but I set up automatic transfers. You'll get every penny back." It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about acknowledgement, respect, recognition of what I'd done and who I was. As David and I drove home through the snowy Denver streets, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope for my family relationships. "How do you feel?" David asked. "Different, lighter somehow, like I can finally stop trying to prove I'm worthy of love." "You never needed to prove that, you know." "I know that now." Over the next few months, the changes in my family dynamics continued. My dad started reading business articles to understand my industry better. He even asked if he could visit my office, and when he did, he spent an hour asking thoughtful questions about digital marketing. My mom began calling me regularly, not to ask for favors or drop hints about money, but just to talk. We developed the kind of mother-daughter relationship I'd always wanted. Jake paid me back in full within 6 months and went to therapy to address his gambling addiction. Tyler finished medical school and started his residency, and he made a point of including me in his celebrations and milestones. The biggest change was in how I saw myself. I stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. I stopped apologizing for my success. I stopped carrying the emotional burden of managing everyone else's feelings. My business continued to thrive. The Nike campaign was a massive success, leading to contracts with 2 other major brands. I had to move to a larger office space and hire 8 more employees. Forbes featured me in their 30 under 30 list, and this time, my family actually celebrated. But more importantly, I learned to celebrate myself. This Thanksgiving, 1 year after the explosion that changed everything, we're having dinner at my loft. I'm cooking, my family is coming to my space, and we're building new traditions based on mutual respect instead of old patterns of dysfunction. David proposed last month, and when I called to share the news, my dad's first words were, "Congratulations, sweetheart. He's a lucky man." Not "when's the wedding" or "finally." Just genuine happiness for my happiness. I know some of you watching this might think I was too harsh with my family, that I shouldn't have exposed their secrets so publicly. But sometimes, toxic family systems can only be broken by refusing to participate in the dysfunction. Sometimes, you have to be willing to lose the family you thought you wanted in order to gain the family you actually deserve. If you're the invisible child in your family, the one who's always giving but never receiving, the one who's constantly minimized or dismissed, I want you to know that you don't have to accept that treatment. Your worth isn't determined by other people's ability to see it. You don't owe anyone your silence about mistreatment. You don't owe anyone your financial support without acknowledgement. You don't owe anyone the right to diminish your accomplishments to make themselves feel better. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. Demanding respect isn't asking too much. My family had to lose me as their emotional punching bag and secret ATM before they could find me as their daughter and sister. It was painful for everyone involved, but it was necessary. The relationship I have with them now isn't perfect, but it's honest. It's based on who we actually are, not who we pretended to be. And for the first time in my life, I feel truly seen and valued by the people who are supposed to love me most. If my story resonates with you, I want to hear about it. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who couldn't see your worth? How did you handle it? What boundaries did you have to set? Drop your stories in the comments below. Let's support each other through these difficult family dynamics. And if this video helped you feel less alone in your own struggles with toxic family members, please hit that like button and subscribe. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to stop accepting the unacceptable. Sometimes you have to break old patterns to make room for healthy new ones. Remember, you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions at the expense of your own well-being. You are worthy of respect, recognition, and love, exactly as you are. Thanks for watching, and remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and you deserve better than being invisible in your own life.